Hey everyone, Brayden here coming to you with a Mickey Views special report where it is my distinct honor and pleasure to break some rumors for you guys today pertaining to Beyond Big Thunder Mountain at Walt Disney World. A few disclaimers here. These are rumored projects that we believe are in development. I have not seen any sort of documents or proof on these or anything like that. Mickey Views has no affiliation with Disney. This is all very, very unofficial. What I have done is I have taken the word of mouth and reports that I've heard from our trusted sources, and I have compiled those into something visual to give you guys an idea of what we could be looking at inside the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida in the future. So take this all with a grain of salt. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So first off, the biggest rumor I have for you guys. As you recall, years ago, we reported that Disney wanted to do away with Frontierland at the Magic Kingdom and make part of it into the Bayou, but Big Thunder Mountain can't be rethemed into the Bayou. It has nothing to do with New Orleans, which means if Disney were to do away with Frontierland, Big Thunder Mountain would need to be part of a new land. It needs its own new land. So to that end, Imagineering explored adding Encanto and Coco behind Big Thunder Mountain to create a desert-themed land. However, plans have changed, and now both of those intellectual properties are replacing Dinoland USA over at Disney's Animal Kingdom as part of the Tropical Americas themed land. Hence, at the most recent D23 event, we got no update on that Beyond Big Thunder area because it was up in the air. The IPs that were supposed to go there had moved over to the other project going on over at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Well, according to our sources, it is not up in the air anymore, as it is my belief that Radiator Springs Racers, based on Disney Pixar's Cars franchise, is planned to be built beyond Big Thunder Mountain as part of the desert-themed land coming to the Magic Kingdom. To be clear, we're not talking about Cars Land, we're not talking about that main street area, we are only talking about the desert-themed portion of Radiator Springs Racers that you have out in Disney California Adventure, perhaps being cloned and brought over to the Magic Kingdom to create a giant new e-ticket attraction at the park. So I believe Radiator Springs Racers is under consideration for the desert-themed land coming to Walt Disney World. So there you go, pretty crazy stuff. So next up, also in the rumored desert-themed land, do you guys remember way back in the day when they first announced Toy Story Land for Disney's Hollywood Studios? It had this Western Woody themed area. It had this street facade with a saloon and all that stuff. Well, I recalled that the other day after I heard from one of our sources that they are allegedly considering adding a Woody themed Toy Story attraction to this area, to this desert area. So to give you a bit of a visual representation here on the map, I actually took that over from the concept art. So I'm not sure if it's just floated through time and they're reviving it here, that little portion there, or if it is just strictly coincidental that they've previously announced something kind of like this and now allegedly it is under consideration for this desert themed area. Now at this point, it's important for me to say, while I am pretty confident that I know the contents in terms of what's actually being considered for this area, I do not know the land boundaries of the desert land or the villain's land, the exact boundaries of them, or the location of the rides inside them. So these locations that you're seeing on screen, for these are for visual purposes. I'm just showing you what's going in the land. I don't know where in the land it's going to go, what the exact shape of the land is going to be. What I'm not guessing on though is that the word on the street is that a Toy Story attraction is in development for this desert themed land. You might be wondering, Brayden, why did you put the Woody attraction on Tom Sawyer Island? Well, that brings us to our next rumor. Looking at the sheer size of Radiator Springs Racers alone, not to mention we're about to get into the villain's land here, I have heard that it is a strong possibility that the Rivers of America is going to be shortened and it might be outright filled in. And that has led me to believe that the Fort Langhorne portion, that half of Tom Sawyer Island, is almost assuredly gone if this Beyond Big Thunder project actually actually happens. My concern is if Disney fills in the northern end of the rivers of America, the waterways in the Magic Kingdom, they can be managed underground. However, that above ground waterway that goes from rivers all the way out to the Seven Seas Lagoon, that is what enables the Liberty Bell to pass through and receive maintenance. So if they shorten or do away with the rivers of America and feed water to the area from underground, that'll mean that the Liberty Bell is at an extreme risk of being decommissioned. So keep an eye on that one. We'll take a look at it again in a second here. Next up, over at Villains, as of right now, I do not know the properties that are being considered for this area besides the Haunted Mansion themed restaurant to be built behind the Haunted Mansion as part of the Villains area, which I previously broke to you guys. And I have heard that that project is now canceled. And hopefully they revive it, because that sounded actually like a pretty cool idea. The Villains area is going to be pretty massive. And at a minimum, we have heard that it'll include one E-ticket attraction and one D-ticket attraction. And it'll feed from the Haunted Mansion pathways and connect over to the Desert Themed Land, which will then connect over to the Bayou, which will then connect over to Liberty Square. Allegedly. The strange thing with this Villains Land is it has been in blue sky actively for years and years now, so I'm surprised I haven't heard even a peep, a credible rumor of any kind from our sources on which intellectual properties will be used. But I will say those ride counts that I gave you guys are not strictly a guess, so those do give me hope that we are looking at a pretty serious investment back here for a Villains themed area. Looping around to the Bayou, reports indicate that the Shootin' Arcade is next up in the imminent demise department, and I'd like to let you guys know that I've heard that the new Country Bear Musical Jamboree will open to the general public this August. That is not official, but just throwing that out there for you guys if you have a trip coming up, if you want to know what to expect insofar as that attraction is concerned. On Tiana's opening date, I still can't say. The weird thing in the Bayou area I've been telling you guys about for years and years now is this area, in some capacity, I think it's going to become sort of like a New Orleans corner of the park. And a big part of that is the retheme of the Pecos Bill's counter service restaurant, just simply retheming the inside, doing a cosmetic and menu update. And that was already supposed to have happened by now. I believe that they wanted that to open alongside Tiana's Bayou Adventure itself. And it was sounding like it was going to be a pretty long refurbishment. So the fact that that still hasn't even been announced yet alone started, makes me question if that is actually still going to be happening. Something else interesting to think about. If Disney touches the rivers of America and perhaps ends up doing away with it entirely, that frees up this whole middle area for even more attractions and things. I really want them to keep part of the rivers of America at a minimum, because the water feature that you have there, it cools down the park. It makes it feel less like a concrete jungle, and it's nice to be around. If they kept the lower half at least, then the boat could circle the former Tom Sawyer Island, which maybe in and of itself wouldn't be big enough, to bother bringing guests out to it, but perhaps they could start using it as some sort of stage like we see out in Disneyland, what they do with their Tom Sawyer, and of course it's also a guest accessible space. However, if the configuration ended up like this, there's no way to get the Liberty Bell out of there to be maintained, which leads me to believe if they're going to do something significant with the rivers of America, we could end up looking at something more like this, where the Liberty Bell becomes static over by Liberty Square, and we have all this space open for more shops, more restaurants, more intellectual properties, and more attractions. And this is not my distinct honor to tell you guys about. The Walt Disney World Railroad has been down for ages now. It feels like we just got it back. If you've thought about everything I've told you so far, if Disney ends up doing this Beyond Big Thunder project and it ends up being anything close to the scale that I'm telling you guys about, the projects that I'm telling you guys about, it will interfere with the Walt Disney World Railroad. That whole construction area is going to be interfacing with a staging area for employees outside the park limits. These new constructions themselves are going to exceed the path of the railroad. It looks like there's going to be construction happening right where the railroad currently runs. So this doesn't mean that the railroad is finished by any means. I don't think the railroad is going anywhere, but it likely means that the Walt Disney World Railroad is going to be down for many more years to come. We're going to get into another situation here, like with Tron, where the Walt Disney World Railroad is closed for a while once Disney starts construction on this expansion. I hope that's not the case and they somehow figure out a way to work around it. I just don't see how that would be possible. We've been hearing from Disney that the Beyond Big Thunder project is one of their largest expansions ever, the largest expansion ever at the Magic Kingdom, and I think you guys can see why. We are talking about an entire quadrant of the Magic Kingdom property here that is up to be completely transformed, so this is pretty huge. It looked like this time last year that thanks to the lack of investment, the de-theming of Frontierland that had been on the list of things that they wanted to do, that had been shelved and Frontierland had been saved. Now with the money flowing again by the sounds of it and all this reportedly in the works, it looks like Frontierland might not be long for this world. So you guys, the reason I make these, it's not for attention or clicks or anything like that, because videos like this with such specific rumors, you know, it's very easy for people to go through later and pick through and say, okay, Brayden was wrong about this, Brayden was wrong about that. It's pretty risky to do. The thing is I'm not saying that everything I just told you is 100% going to happen. I don't know that. The reason that I make these is because I want you guys to know what I know, so I'm not just like sitting on information that you guys aren't aware of, and I want those who are heading to Walt Disney World to appreciate these areas that are endangered species. Go over and check out and appreciate everything that the Imagineers did with Tom Sawyer Island. Head over to the arcade, which is currently free, which is pretty awesome. I've done it many times recently. There's a lot of cool effects in there. Also, just hang out in Frontierland. Enjoy the atmosphere, the streetmosphere, the whole area, and also hang out over at Liberty Square too, by the way, because it is my sincere belief that all those that I've just listed are in for some dramatic changes in the near future, and there will be even more to break on that front not too long from now. So be sure to subscribe with those notifications on so you don't miss what's coming. If you'd like to find out how you can support the channel, you can do so over at mickeyviews.com/support. Shout out to our patrons and executive producers over at Patreon for their support. Thank you so much for watching from the Mickey Views Magic Studio. This is Brayden. Have a magical day.